master birders. However, we really enjoy birding, but we are still on the learning curve of birding. So don't be intimidated by Thunder Bay Audubon Society and think, oh, only those people that really know their birds, are part of that group. That's not true at all. We've got some people that are very beginners, and then we've got a lot of people in the middle. But we do have some master birders, and it's a real treat to go out with those folks. They can even tell what bird is in that tree way over there that I can hardly see, and they can tell what it is by the sound that it's making. So it's pretty impressive when you get with some of those people. The photos are mostly taken by Barb and her friend. There are a few interspersed that are taken by Chuck and I, and a couple of other, there may be 2 or 3 other ones that were taken by other people in our group. So with that, I'll turn it over to Barb and she can start the actual presentation.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, I'm Barb Cole, and I am the PR coordinator for the Thunder Bay Audubon Society. So this is our presentation for the presentation of Squaw Bay. And this is about the different birds that are seen during the migratory season, specifically from the spring through the fall time frame that we talk about. Are you going to be able to switch to the next slide for me?
I hope so.
Okay. Squaw Bay. This is along the edge of US Highway 23, is a sign that reads the 45th parallel, halfway between the equator and the North Pole. The property is owned by the state of Michigan on the east side of the highway. The west side of the highway is the Nature Conservancy property. There was a sign, Karen told me about it, showed me a picture of it, and I've never seen the sign, so I have no idea what's happened with it.
I think when the water level came up, the sign just fell over. I mean, you could see it kind of tilting. And then this spring, I no longer saw it. So I'm assuming that the ice and the higher water level just kind of, did it in. And so maybe, hopefully they'll replace that in a better location.
Right. Because then people would know.
Right.
Many birds make this their home, and migratory birds are seen during the spring through the fall time frame. Birds that have been observed in this area are the adult bald eagles and the immatures or juveniles, great blue heron, great egret, double-breasted Qumarants, osprey, terns, trumpeter and mute swans, and belted kingfisher. Many duck varieties flock to this area. Shore birds that you would typically see are yellow legs and killdeer. My next, Squaw Bay. This is a natural habitat with different types of wildlife that have been seen in this area. White-tailed deer, raccoon, opossum, and cougar. Fishermen are also seen fishing from the side of the road or putting their small crafts in the water for fishing farther out in the bay. In October, this time frame right now, you will see the duck hunters in this area for specific types of ducks that are hunted. Next slide. Partridge Point, the sunrise coastal birding. Off of Squaw Bay from US 23, down a road called South Partridge Point, there is a place designated as part of the Sunrise Coast Birding Trail. You can walk down a trail to Squaw Bay and view the bay from a different perspective. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the photographer, myself, you can capture birds. Nope, you got to go back. Nope. Back. You've gone too far.
There we go.
There we go. You can capture birds in your photos without realizing that you missed a great photo op, but I did capture the tree capture in the tree and see a juvenile eaglet. If you go back to that last slide, Ron, up in the tree, there's a juvenile that I circled. And I didn't even realize that I had captured him in my photo, and I put away my camera and had actually, as I was putting away my binoculars, he took off. And that's how I knew it was a juvenile, because I did get to see him in my binoculars. So
a caution for folks that might want to go here right now. It's very wet down around Partridge Point. From this parking lot, in fact, this picture is a good one, because in this picture, you can see kind of puddles in the parking lot, and those puddles kind of extend out on the path going out to the Bay Area there. So if you do want to take a trek down there, just be sure you dress appropriately, specifically in footwear.
yes, boots will help you. I can tell you that. Okay, I'll take the next slide. Spring migratory. We have up here, we have the red-winged blackbird, a mallard, and the Caspian tern. Spring on Squaw Bay begins the migratory season with many different types of birds found in and around the bay. These were some of the birds viewed by the Thunder Bay Audubon Society in April of 2021. The ducks we got to see were the bufflehead, mallard, ring-necked duck, hooded Mcganzer, and common Mcganzer. We'd also seen Canadian geese, Caspian tern, ring-billed gull, great blue heron, great egret, belted kingfisher, double-crested Qumarant, the juvenile bald eagle, the red-winged blackbird, and a common grackle. Okay. And then we went down South Partridge Point Road, and we saw the greater yellowlegs and the northern flicker down this area. So along the roadside, there are marshy areas. You can find all different types of wildlife, including other migratory birds. You need to drive down South Partridge Point slow to view these hidden birds. The fact is, this area gives these birds more hiding places within the marsh, and they can blend in well. The greater yellowleg, which you can see on the left, he blends in really, really well. The lesser yellowlegs, the common goldeneye, we had a sharp-shined hawk, yellow-bellied sapsucker, northern flicker, which is on your right. Is that correct? No, that's the northern flicker. Then we saw robins, turkey vultures, and the killdeer. And the killdeer you'll typically see along shores looking for the perfect place in the spring for building their nests. Okay. The variety of ducks. A variety of ducks are seen making this their home during migratory season, and some ducks varieties stay year-round. Portions of Squaw Bay have real marshy areas that most ducks live in and around. There are good places for ducks to hide, to build nests, hide from prey, and raise their young. Throughout the year, the ducks vary, and being able to observe and identify can be a bit tricky for a novice birding person. So take your time viewing and look for distinctive attributes about these different species. And I could not even tell you which duck this is. Because if you look at the one picture, how far away, I blew them up and I still really can't tell what they are, so.
What preys on ducks?
Raccoons, possum, they eat their eggs.
Eat the eggs, okay.
Eat
Just wondering how they catch a duck.
You'll also have anything large. Your birds of prey will eat your ducks, eagles, osprey. They're Well, maybe not the osprey, because osprey are typically fish eaters.
Fish eaters, yeah,
Yeah, so the eagles will.
yeah.
So
And
you'll-
it's not often that people see osprey here. You once in a while you do, but not nearly as often as you see the eagles.
Right,
Just as for your information, you know. Mhm.
yep. So the ducks through the migratory season, typically you'll see, and we've pulled this from the eBirding site. The spring ducks you'll see are American black duck, northern pintail, green-winged teal, bufflehead. In fact, the bufflehead just returned for the fall now. Common goldeneye, hooded Mcganzer, and red-breasted Mcganzer. Spring, summer, and fall ducks, you'll typically always see the wood duck, the mallard, the common Mcganzer. And in the fall ducks and grebes, you'll see northern shoveler and the pied-billed grebe.
Okay.
This is the northern shoveler. They are 17 to 20 inches. They're a small duck. They have a spoon-shaped bill. In flight, the long bill makes the wing seam set well back. And swimming, it sits low and the bill is pointed toward the water. This is a female northern shoveler, brown, big bill, blue wing patch, and orange feet. I know you can't see the orange feet. You have anything else to say about the northern shoveler?
No, but
Karen?
this is a great example, though, of how tricky duck identification can be. You know, this is, you know, we can't see from this photo, and hence sometimes you can't see it even with your eye or your binoculars. You know, those points that Barb just said about the blue that you could see on there, and the, you know, so sometimes it's very tricky to identify some of these ducks. It takes a lot of practice. And I just heard that the another duck that comes through that you will be seeing, not just here, but say over along the river more, the redheads are coming down. So if they're not already here, sometimes I just saw there was a big bunch of them were coming down from Whitefish Point in the last couple of days. So, and I personally haven't seen any this fall yet, but I'm not in town real often either. So, okay, I'm done. Next slide.
This is the pied-billed grebe. These ducks are less social than most species of grebes and are rarely found in flocks. When disturbed, they dive headfirst underwater, or they sink slowly into the water until their heads are above water like a submarine periscope. They have a wingspan of 6.29 inches. Their length is 13.5 inches. In the winter, these birds lose the ring bill. This could be a juvenile, as it only shows white throat and streaked head. Adult has the bill ring, whitish bill, black chin, and throat. So I was really happy when we found this little guy out there.
The best place to see one of these in the Alpena area this year anyway has been in the sanctuary, like going out to Duck Park and then onto Island Park. There's been one that's been hanging around there that I've seen a couple of times. I have not seen the one in Squaw Bay.
No?
No.
Oh, so then I guess I was pretty lucky to have
You were
gotten this
lucky.
photo.
Well, like I said, since I don't live in town, I'm not out there real often, but I've not seen the one in Squaw Bay this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I had, and so this is like the end of the, well, it's not really the end of the ducks, but I'm really kind of
Right.
sad that I didn't get the bufflehead,
Yeah.
because they've just returned and I didn't have time to run back out to Squaw
Yeah.
Bay and try and go get another
Yeah.
picture.
Right.
So, okay, next. The common Mcganzer and her babies. Males have long whitish body, black back, green black head, breast tinged peach. Phew. The females are gray with a crested rufous head, clean white chest, large square white wing patch. This is everything you need to know about them. They both have red feet and bills. So this is when we talk about looking at these birds, these ducks, you really, really have to pay attention to them. The Mcganzer shape identifies them with the bill, neck, head, and body held horizontally to the water. You can see that with her in swimming.
And they also sit a little bit lower in the water than, say, a mallard, for example. That's one of the things that Chuck and I have kind of tried to key in on, is that, you know, how does the ducks sit in the water? There's actually a difference if you know, when you start to study them.
Right.
Another fun thing, and I get this question a couple of times a year about all of these babies, because those of us that live on a lake, especially, you know, you'll see sometimes, you know, this is a little family. Sometimes we see, you know, 30 or more babies behind, you know, say a female Mcganzer. And you think, what was this duck doing? Well, Mcganzers are one of the families of ducks that once that they kind of merge their families. And so all of the ducks that you see behind a particular female really might not be all of her babies. And sometimes they also share a nest box. So, you know, I did not know that until, you know, I don't know, maybe a few years ago, you know, but it is fun to see them with all of these little babies just following them. And then of course, you've always got that one or two that don't follow, you know, and so they're like taking off over there. And then you can hear the mother, you know, kind of call them over. Yep, go on.
Well, and that's what I was actually going to get to about that, because they actually do say that when the raccoons invade the nest, Mcganzer nest, and destroys all the other eggs, because they do put eggs, they actually pick up their own eggs and go put them into another nest. And they call that their insurance policy.
Sure.
And so I guess that's where you could say the saying comes from, of not putting all your eggs in one basket.
One basket. Right.
And then sometimes, like, even when the babies do get lost, the babies will end up going and just joining in with another Mcganzer family.
Yeah.
And the mother just lets them.
Sure.
She'll just become the mother. Okay, our common goldeneye and hooded Mcganzer. Both of these ducks are considered divers. Common goldeneye, male has a large, round, white spot before the eye, a white-looking duck with a black back and puffy green glossed head. They're 20 inches long. Feeds mainly along shorelines in relatively shallow water, where it dives underwater for aquatic invertebrates, fish, and fish eggs. And then the hooded Mcganzer, he's one of the 3 native Mcganzer species. Note the vertical fan-shaped white crest that may be raised or lowered, breast white with 2 black bars on each side, wing with white patch. They're 16 to 19 inches long. They're fairly common on small ponds and rivers where they dive for fish, crayfish, and other food, seizing it in their thin serrated bills. This is the smallest of the Mcganzer species and often seems to be the least numerous, as they live around swamp and wooded ponds where they may be overlooked. Anything else about these guys?
No.
But this is where we had talked about really paying attention to those, what the species of ducks look like, to really be able to tell what they are. The great blue heron. These birds are 42 to 52 inches tall. Their wingspan is 6 feet. This is a medium to large wading bird with a long neck and spear-like bill. They stand with neck erect on or head on shoulders. That's what they call it. Great size and blue in color, white with head in adults mark this species. In flight, the neck folds in an S and legs trail. Habitat is the marshes, swamps, shore, and tide flats. They mostly eat fish, but will also feed on small rodents, insects, frogs, snakes, and even small birds. It silently stalks its prey in shallow waters, then plunges its bill into the water to capture its prey. They're pretty awesome birds to be around.
For those of you that have driven on 23 there past Squaw Bay for years, because you obviously have noticed the difference in the water levels of that particular area. And now that the water has risen, you probably are seeing fewer great blue herons in that immediate area because the water is deeper than what they really like. And so they'll be there, but they'll be farther away from the road where the water gets shallower. So,
yeah. This is our great egret and trumpeter swan I saw out there this year. And it was really kind of interesting because I kept seeing these two guys together consistently all the time, every time I went out there. So this was the best I could get with a trumpeter swan out there. Their common call is a single or double honk that sounds like an old car horn. These are the biggest native waterfowl, stretching to 6 feet in length and weighing more than 25 pounds. Getting airborne requires a lumbering takeoff along a 100-yard runway. This is as elegant as any swan with a graceful neck and snowy white plumage. Not many, I don't really believe that I've seen too many nests in this area just because they were so far out. But I had consistently seen 4 in the Squaw Bay area. Mm-hmm. So typically you'll see these swans out in the duck park nesting and caring for their young.
Yeah. And most of the ones that we see in the duck park area are mute swans, and you can tell the difference because they have that orange part on their bill. So most of the ones in the duck park area are mute swans. They are not native. This trumpeter swan is native, and it's hard to tell in the photo here, but his beak is all black. And yes. Also the neck is a little straighter, but the other ones they put their necks up too sometimes. But so you will not see, Barb's right, you will not see as many trumpeter swans as you do mute swans Yeah.
Okay. The great egret. The great egret is actually part of the heron family. And so sometimes they're known as a great white heron. So sometimes you'll hear people refer to it as a white heron, or you'll hear them call it just an egret. It's one and the same. It can be very confusing to some people. This is a large, stately, slender white heron with a yellow bill, orange when breeding. The legs and feet are black. When feeding, this bird assumes an eager, forward-leaning pose, neck extended. The wingspan is 51 inches, just over 4 feet. Typically seen starting in late spring, throughout the summer months, and late into the fall. In fact, there's still quite a few of them still out there in Squaw Bay. I've seen that. Anything else, Karen?
And again, for those of you that have traveled for years in that area, say even as recent as, say, 10 years ago, to see a white egret there, it was unusual. But again, the changing of that habitat it specifically has let them come in more. And they also and I think Barb talks about this later too, they've also been nesting on one of the islands near here. And then they come to the shoreline here to feed, because I was a little confused about that too. But one of our birder friends, who's really a good birder, said that they nest out on the island and then they come over into Squaw Bay. It's one of their favorite areas to fish because the water there is shallow enough for them to hunt there. But you'll see lots of them now, where, like I said, 10 years ago, it was rare to see a great egret anywhere around the immediate Alpena area. Okay.
Okay. The bald eagle. This is our national bird of the United States. They're 30 to 43 inches tall, one of the largest raptors. Both male and female have the same markings. Female is typically taller than the male. Unless they are sitting side by side, it is very hard to distinguish between the two. They have a wingspan of 7 to 8 feet. Adults with white head and tail feathers, bill and claws are yellow. Eagles mate for life. When one passes, the other will take a new mate and will continually use the same nest. The nest is used year to year, and every year the nest will typically get bigger as they clean and add to the nesting materials. Bald eagles are opportunists. They eat most any kind of meat. You may see them along a roadside eating a deer or any other type of roadkill. They also eat fish. These pictures are taken at the south end of Squaw Bay in a pine tree. And typically you will see one or both of the bald eagles sitting up in this tree during nesting season.
Yeah, a lot of times you can see them there. So just, every time you go by, you got to look in those big white pine trees just south of Squaw Bay, and you might be lucky enough to see one or more.
Yeah. So during the nesting season, a typical adult will sit within view of the nest, watching over their eaglets. Could be one or two or three. Eaglets, immature eagles, are born with a yellow bill and claws. White head and tail feathers will not be seen for 2 to 3 years. So some people at times when they see a juvenile eaglet will sometimes say, I saw a golden eagle. And you have to go back, and you really have to go back and look at them to realize they're a juvenile and not a golden eagle. So when you see an adult bald eagle, pay attention to the area they are viewing as they're watching over the young in their nest. Eagles only lose one feather at a time. When the feather is lost, the other feather must be grown in before they lose another. And it is against the law to collect eagle feathers. It's a $25,000 fine, FYI, unless you're Native American.
Yes.
Can't you pick them up? If they're on the ground or something, if they're molded?
There's actually,
I couldn't hear the question, so.
possession of eagle feathers and parts are only for Native Americans. And
Yes.
there is actually, you can go out to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and they will tell you about this whole, there's a whole information about collecting their feathers or even a dead body, and it has to go back to the National Conservancy that they have. And actually, if you do find one, they recommend that you just call your DNR and you have them come and pick it up, because they're actually, they can then send it into the conservancy where they collect all the feathers. Or
Can they get information from those feathers? Feathers, can you tell the age of the eagle or the health of the eagle or stuff like that?
I have no idea. I've never looked into it that far. But I do know that Some of the eagle feathers I've actually seen a tail feather. I've seen wing feathers, and all the wing feathers are actually really different. The way they look and the length of them. So it's like just really interesting just to even look at them and take pictures of them. So, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of laws with the national, with the whole bald eagle thing. So I don't really know what kind of data they do collect with them. So is that all? Yeah, because there's a lot out there with Fish and Wildlife, US Fish and Wildlife. They can give you tons and tons of information. I spent 3 years in Florida doing bald eagle monitoring with just nesting down in the area that I lived in. And it's truly an interesting thing just to stand there and watch them. And like I said, when they're looking in a specific area, they are watching their nest. And it can be really scary. I mean, you can actually be out there and these eagles can actually, you hear about people being attacked. Yes, they will attack you if you get too close to their nest during mating season or when the babies are just born. So it's all really crazy. Okay, moving on to the osprey. This year I got to see the osprey. They are 21 to 24 inches tall with a wingspan of 4.5 to 6 feet. The head is largely white, often mistaken sometimes for a bald eagle when looking at them from a distance and without binoculars. What will give them away is that they have a broad black cheek patch and the underbelly is all white. As you can see, as he was like just stretching out his out his wings, you can really see that with his whole underbelly. Okay. So this is the only raptor that plunges into water when fishing, hovers on beating wings, and plunges feet first for fish. This raptor exclusively eats fish. That's all they eat. Sightings of the osprey can be very rare in this area as they have the competition of the breeding bald eagles watching over their nest and their juveniles when they fledge. When seen, the osprey would typically be hunting. So he was probably in the area hunting. But yeah, you can see from the picture on your left, when you're kind of far away from it, you might mistake him for a bald eagle at first, just because you're looking at a white head and then you don't even see. But then what gives him away though is that he doesn't really have any tail feathers. So, but if he's facing you, it's probably better that you can see him. Anything else you can say about ospreys, Karen?
No.
Okay. Moving on. The belted kingfisher. These birds are 11 to 14 inches in length with a wingspan of 19 to 23 inches. Very hard to get pictures of these birds as they are very shy and quick to flight. Flies with uneven wing beats. They're easily recognized when perched, big-headed and big-billed, larger than a robin. Typically, when they're perched, you will see them. They do like electrical lines for some ungodly reason. They're blue-gray with a ragged, bushy crest and a broad gray breast band. Female has an additional rusty breast band. They're fish eaters, fishing from perches above water or hovering and then plunges head first. Anything you want to add about that?
Well, those you can often see going down Squaw Bay there. And like Barb said, they'll sit on the electrical wires and then look over into the water there. And if you're lucky, if you get there right at the right moment, you can see him, just plunge into the water and get his fish. Yeah.
I had a really hard time getting pictures of these guys because I have a diesel truck. Makes too much noise.
That's right.
Okay. So this is
Mishakiwis.
Mishakiwis.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have a hard time with this. And why are we talking about this park here in Alpena? Well, we want to bring your attention to an island that is on the southeast part of the bay. As you look out into the bay, there is an island called Grass Island. We bring this to your attention as this island is a rookery for double-crested cormorants during the summer and also the egrets. A rookery is
go ahead.
A rookery is a place typically seen as a collection of nests high in clumps of trees. So I don't know. I mean, there's some birds out there, but this was taken kind of late in the fall, or late in the year. So I didn't get as many birds out there that I wanted to.
And again, for those of you that are familiar with the area throughout the years, you may remember even as few as probably 3 to 5 years ago, it was primarily a blue heron rookery. And then as the egrets moved in, and the cormorants kind of pushed the blue herons out of that area. So the summer, when I have been looking out on the island through binoculars, I could not see any blue herons out there. I was only able to see a lot of the gray egrets and the cormorants. That's kind of sad to me because I always thought it was really cool that we had a blue heron rookery here, and not so much anymore.
No.
Nope.
Here's the double-crested cormorant. They are seen during the spring, summer, and fall. They swim underwater to fish and have plugged nostrils along with 2 layers of feathers for swimming at great depths, 8 to 20 feet. Fully webbed feet propel slim, streamlined bodies when diving. They are fish eaters. If you ever see them flying next to you along the road in Squaw Bay, which I have, you will. They're like really skinny bodies, really skinny. With their wings spread, what they are doing is they are actually drying their feathers. Mm-hmm. They eat up to 1/4 of their weight in fish each day, preying on many species of fish, but concentrating on those that are easiest to catch. They are large water birds with small heads on long kinked necks. They have a strong hooked bill, roughly the length of the head. Their heavy bodies sit low in the water. They form colonies and have stick nests built high in trees, on islands, or in patches of flooded timber. And then our snowy owl. So the migratory season typically will end in the fall when you think about all the birds that you'll see. But it really doesn't stop. As you can see by these pictures, Alpena has a snowy owl during our winter months. They have rounded heads and yellow eyes. Dark bars and spots are heavier on females, and on immatures, these colors are heavier. Males may be pure white. A snowy owl has been spotted in Squaw Bay. Other times it has been spotted on Wessel Road, perched on a sign. It has also been spotted behind the Besser Museum, perched on top of the old bank. These owls hunt during the day in fields and marshes and can be seen perched typically on posts or signs lower to the ground. These are not typical owls that are up in trees. So you don't ever have to stop birding in the spring, summer, or fall. You can try and capture the snowy owl whenever, if you get a chance.
Yeah, I think the earliest that I've heard that people have spotted one here has been maybe around Thanksgiving time. And they don't come down every year. And some years we sight a few more than other years. It's really, so if you see one, they're so beautiful and they're so rare around here that it's just phenomenal to be able to spot one. So keep your eyes out for them.
Yes, because I spent my whole last winter chasing down this darn bird and never got one single picture. So thank you, everybody who sent me the snowy owl pictures. Because they aren't from me.
Feathers stay that white all year.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And the immatures, probably the one on the left is more of an immature because of how dark all those, as I was saying.
I think it's also the difference between the male and the female. That makes a difference too, as well as how old they are, right? Yeah.
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 Because the immatures will be really heavily, like the one on the left, I believe is probably more of an immature, as they call it, that the colors are heavier. Whereas the females, probably the one on the right is more of a male because it does not have all that brown in it. And the females would have a little bit more in that color spectrum of that brownish specking, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, the female has more of the barring on the breast there than what the male does. And the one on the right, it's hard to tell because you can't see the other side of it either. Yeah. So,
right.
But again, so as Barb has been saying, just keep your eye out for birds even in the winter. And until the bay there actually freezes over, you will see ducks there, mallards, and I don't know, just a lot of them don't hang around just because most of them are geared to going to a little bit warmer climes. But so you do see them though.
Yes. Okay. So this is the end of our presentation from the Thunder Bay Audubon Society. We want to thank you for participating in this presentation. And our presenters were Karen Tetzlaff, who's our Audubon president here in the Thunder Bay area, and myself, I'm the PR coordinator. So the picture on the left, that's Karen at the very forefront with the binoculars looking somewhere in the cold winter months. And then on the right, there's a picture of Barb standing there in a yellow hat, I think I had on that morning, and Karen's sort of standing back with her other hat.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure who else was on the platform with us, Karen. Who else was on the platform?
I think that might have been, is that Jan Charter? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. So yes, does anyone have, we've got time for a few questions. If people have something they'd like to ask us. I'm not sure you all have the capability of doing that, so.
Those of you viewing online, if you want to unmute your microphone to ask a question, that'd probably be the best way to do that.
Okay, so. And throughout our presentation, you can see that it really depends on two things, what kind of birds you're going to see, be it at Squaw Bay or anywhere else, but it's going to depend on the time of year, and it's going to depend on habitat, exactly what is happening to the land and the water that you are out investigating. Those two are just key to what you're going to see. Okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.